My wife and I picked up this 2008 Itasca Cambria made by Winnebago. This 28 foot camper is powered by a V10 Ford engine. We bought this RV with 17,000 miles, just over 17,000 miles on it. Excellent deal, but the check engine light was on. Didn't show any signs of major catastrophic engine failure, so I figured, I can fix it down the road. We owned this thing for about a week before we took an emergency trip to see family in Washington State on a trip that was about 2,500 miles with the check engine light on, and it never gave us any real issues, but it was only getting about 7 miles to the gallon. We made it all the way back from Washington to Texas, no issues, just again really junky mileage. And shortly after we left again, headed to Albuquerque, and the power started cutting out on this thing about 25 miles out from Bernalillo, north of Albuquerque. We made it into the KOA in Bernalillo. When we got up the next morning, I thought I'd fire it up and drive down to dump the tanks and fill up the water tank with water and see how this thing ran. And the code did not clear, and it was having a hard time running. Still had a major loss of power, and so I took it back to the RV spot and I pulled the battery and just let this thing sit for about 45 minutes. Did a little bit of reading up on them and didn't find anything really specific except maybe some issues with the throttle position sensors. After we had breakfast, I came back and I dismantled the air filter box and started to dig into the throttle position sensor. One thing I noticed when I got in to dismantle the air filter and everything and start to work my way to the throttle position sensor was this latch and this seal. I noticed there was a gap here where the air filter is, and I didn't think much of it, but later on, come to find out that posed a bigger issue than I ever imagined. So I started removing all the air intake to get to the throttle position sensor to check it, and also disconnected the battery to try and let the computer reset just to see if that would make any difference. About 45 minutes, I came back out, reassembled the air filter box. In my opinion, I think this is just a really crappy, junky design. It took a little bit of work to get the box and the filter and everything flush so that it would properly clamp down. And I put the battery back on, fired this thing up, and freaking thing ran like a dream. And we got about 2 more miles per gallon out of this thing for the next 2,000 miles. If you've never had one of these apart, it's just a big cone filter with kind of a fat rubber gasket on it that needs to sit in here and seal properly. And after talking to 2 different friends of mine who are mechanics, I asked them if the mass airflow sensors or the electronics could be so sensitive on these newer engines that would throw a code and cause problems, and they answered very quickly, yes. Eventually we wound up pulling a small lightweight flatbed trailer that I use with my motorcycle on it and a Bronco 2, and this thing did really pretty well, getting over 9 miles to the gallon. Sometimes average was more like 7, which I didn't think was too bad, seeing as how it was pulling quite a bit of weight.